Thank you, Minister. I welcome any legislation to provide a framework for regulating surrogacy in Ireland and address the gaps in the Children and Family Relationship Act 2015. It's good that regulation of a wide-ranging and technology-centred area of healthcare for the very first time in Ireland comes with this bill. It is also sad, however, that the time spent waiting for this legislation to pass has no doubt seen many couples go past the age where they could not have a child via AHR. But almost none of the government's special rapporteur on child protection recommendations were included, like pre-birth transfer of parentage of a child born to AHR under 16 years old, access to birth information, even through their parents, although it is good over 16-year-olds have. And there is nothing here in the regulations at all of international surrogacy arrangements. For me, it's a huge issue that the legal recognition of children already born through AHR tied into the delicate issue of international surrogacy. They are very separate issues, one much less complicated than the other, but we seem to be treating them as one and the same, and that's a big concern for me. The current legislation governing the legal relationships that children born through AHR can establish with their intended parents includes the Children and Family Relation Act 2015 and the Adoption Amendment Act 2017. Some children born to AHR procedures can establish legal parent-child relationships with their intended parents. Children born using IUI, IVF or reciprocal IVF born in Ireland and conceived in an Irish fertility clinic can be recognised as the legal child of their intended parents. However, the same cannot be said for those born through surrogacy. I was happy to join the first special committee on surrogacy today, and there are so many issues that I know that we can talk about and hopefully get sorted in our important discussions in our surrogacy committee. And we have a really good committee, and it's so important now that we address all the issues that need to be addressed. We also saw pictures emerging from Ukraine where babies born through surrogacy were being cared for in a shelter in the war-torn country because their legal citizenship was in question. Several couples who had a child born through surrogacy in Ukraine had to be assisted by the Department of Foreign Affairs as to the outset of the war because of the complications there. At the same time, I was meeting with families through surrogacy, and they were telling me of being forced to sit in cars awaiting treatment of their child inside the hospital alone because they were not viewed as the legal guardian of that child born through surrogacy. That, to me, does not serve the best interests of the child, and the law lets the same child down here. And that was a huge issue when I met with groups, and I just think that has to be addressed. I regret that we have sidestepped this issue with this legislation, and although I welcome the opportunity to tease it out, the issue is my commitment that I myself will definitely work on this for the groups that I am representing. I welcome that there have been changes to this legislation since the general scheme in 2017. I really welcome that for that purpose of this bill, an adult is 16, as I mentioned earlier, so surrogate and donor-assisted children can access birth information, and that access is something I have been speaking about on many other types of legislation. I welcome the removal of the mandatory counselling for donors, but this was removed to enable donations from abroad, so it causes me pause. Like, when did we not address international surrogacy? Similarly, we only removed the language causing confusion about those who wish to seek legal advice about international surrogacy. Look, another issue, and I think that again is for the committee. These are concerns that I've just been reading, picking up on there. It is vital that we develop a model of care for infertility to ensure that the provision of safe, effective and accessible services through the public health system. Fertility treatment is currently not available to public patients in Ireland, although the tax relief for medical expenses scheme can be availed of. An attempt at IVF costs up to €5,000, and look, it's usually a lot of attempts, and I've been speaking to parents that have come to me and they just can't afford it, and it's just not one attempt. And I think, this is something that we need to address urgently. And to add to that, it's the heartbreaking issue of a cancer-diagnosed couple with a man or a woman seeking to have cancer treatment, but also preserve their fertility, and the issue becomes a larger issue. Funding for the fertility preservation services for those with a diagnosis of cancer is currently €259,000. This has been in place since 2003 without increase, despite a growing demand for the service. If there is a real possibility of state funding for fertility treatment, which is important, so that there is an equal chance for all families to try fertility solutions that suit their circumstances despite the odds, the provision of fertility preservation needs to be seen as part of these services. As a female up to the age of about 45, one of the first things that will be thought about in the event of a diagnosis of cancer will be future fertility, particularly for those who do not already have children. More and more women and men are surviving cancer and have their own biological child, should have their own biological child, and we can't deny that to them. If there's any way we can absolutely help, and I think that needs to be another commitment from our group. We need to make sure that we give everybody that chance. We must not ignore and continue to ignore the needs of our society, because look, at families they just can't afford it. And again, I just feel this legislation can be so good, but again, there is just a huge concern, and the biggest concern again is money. Money is a huge issue here. So children born through fertility treatment or preservation are children who are wanted, loved, long before they are born, and will grow up to contribute to society. So to see this bill progress, the government's plan to introduce the provision of advanced AHR treatment, include IVF, in the public health system, specifically through the final phase of the rollout of the model of care for infertility, is really good news for me. I raised this issue as a senator and have been passionate about it ever since. And again, just to say, timing is crucial on this. We need to do what we can, get it done as quick as we can, with everybody working together to make sure that nobody's left behind. Thank you, Cearn Cearlan.